Station tonight at 10.
In 1980, the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, Hu Yaobang, called the first meeting since the Cultural Revolution about how to manage Tibet. He visited Tibet with the then Vice Premier and Vice Chairman of the MPC and discovered that 30 years after the peaceful liberation of Tibet, there were still 50,000 people living in poverty. People were begging for food. Hu was very sorry. He shed tears and asked whether the 50 to 60 million yuan of financial assistance Beijing poured into Tibet each year had been thrown into the Yarlung-Zhongpo River.
Before Hu Yaobang left Tibet, he announced to the party, government and military leaders of Tibet 6 new policies, which promised tax exemptions, more autonomy and the withdrawal of Han cadres. Hu's move shocked Tibetans both locally and abroad and had significant influence on the development of Tibet.
The tax exemptions applied to agricultural production and animal husbandry. More autonomy meant that restrictions on the local economy were relaxed. National policies that did not fit in with the practical needs of the region were not implemented. At that time, there were around 120,000 Han Chinese in Tibet. Most of them had gone to work in the impoverished parts of Tibet in response to the government's call for help in developing the region. Hu Yaobang said, "We have been here for 30 years. We have completed our historic mission." It was originally planned that 90,000 Han Chinese were going to leave, but because their withdrawal would impact the day-to-day production in Tibet, only 50,000 withdrew. From then on, more Tibetans were promoted to higher positions. However, Hu's policy caused a lot of controversy within the Communist Party. In 1987, he was removed from office because of his failure in stopping the bourgeoisie liberalization. On the day marking the exile of the Dalai Lama in March of the same year, there were demonstrations in the streets of Lhasa. More incidents of unrest took place. In March 1989, the State Council declared a military curfew in Lhasa, which lasted for 419 days. At that time, CCTV aired footage showing the then party secretary of Tibet, Hu Jintao, and military officers working together to restore a burnt temple. Deng Xiaoping commended the way Hu Jintao stabilized the situation in Tibet. This laid the foundation for Hu's rise to party leader years later. On the 28th of January 1989, the 10th Panchen Lama died in the Tashi Lumpur monastery. Deng Xiaoping invited the Dalai Lama to attend the funeral. The Dalai Lama did not go. Around the same time, the Dalai Lama declared a boy incarnate from abroad as the next Panchen Lama. The central government strongly opposed the appointment. Through the system of lot drawing from the Golden Urn, the central government confirmed another boy incarnate as the 11th Panchen Lama. A year later, the issue of the Panchen twins had not been resolved. The 15-year-old 17th living Buddha, Garmaba, fled from Supu Monastery. He was Tibet's number 3 spiritual leader after the Dalai and Panchen. He was confirmed the boy incarnate by both the central government and the Dalai Lama.
應該背景都係美國嗰個中央情報局，因為佢嗰個聖徒都係中國大陸比較多啲，佢更加喺嗰啲聖徒當中有地位，所以嗰個中情局咧就更加希望控制佢咯，就通過外國嘅一個記者唔知邊個入去見佢。 就同佢講，佢個法寶啊、寶藏啊，呢個係邊個攞到呢？你先可以個確認你嘅身份啊。
The situation in Tibet was becoming more unstable. The central government adjusted its policies and tried to find ways to speed up the economic development in the region, while keeping its religious and cultural influences intact. In the 1950s, Mao ordered repairs to the 2,413-kilometer section of the Sichuan to Tibet highway. More than 3,000 PLA soldiers died while working on the construction. Mao Zedong was quoted as saying, "If we don't have the railway between Qinghai and Tibet constructed, I will be able to sleep well." 32 years and 33 billion yuan later, the longest and highest railway in the world was finally completed.
In the last 4 decades, the central government has appropriated 83 billion yuan for Tibet, making up 94.9% of Tibet's total financial expenditure. 105 projects have since been completed, and the central government has sent officials from 15 provinces to help Tibet in special efforts covering medicine, hygiene, water, education, technology and communication.
我自己覺得，其實中國政府對西藏咧，真係可以講話咧，即係攞盡個心出嚟 咁事實上，我去完西藏睇完之後，我覺得咧，我係直情感動，我係感動到覺得咧，因為中國有一個咁樣嘅中央政府統一嚟安排，又有我哋今日有咁嘅經濟能力，先至有咁嘅西藏。
The Dalai Lama has said that the economic development of Tibet is dependent on China and that the independence from China may harm the region. However, what he and the Tibetans in exile fear is that the religious and cultural aspects of the region may be lost.
我哋都係一個已經係全球化嘅環境底下嘅中國，而今日中國係將呢種生活方式、現代化嘅生活方式，包括教育、醫療、衛生等等，帶到去西藏，所產生嘅呢個衝擊係存在嘅。但係我認為咧，如果話我哋係有意將文化滅絕咧，我覺得呢個係簡直係將個事實夾硬嚟講。
西藏人賺100塊錢啊，他90塊錢可能獻給寺院，10塊錢他自己用，沒有錯，這是西藏人的一個生活方式，是一種觀念，是一種文化。我們當然不否認西藏人這個需要物質的生活，但是你要讓他選擇物質跟精神的話，我們更肯定的一定會選精神的。
喺尊重藏人嘅精神文明嘅需要，同埋給予更多精神文明嘅滿足嘅同時，整個其他文明嘅發展、現代文明嘅介入，亦都係需要嘅。達賴離開中國喺世界各地呢50年嚟，佢都不斷在進步當中，不斷地從呢個世界各種嘅文明裏面吸收咗好多營養。因此，達賴今日能夠用好現代化嘅術語去講西藏嘅文明。
Despite their differences, there is a sense that both Beijing and the Dalai Lama realize they are at a crossroads. The Dalai Lama suffered a spell of serious illness in 2001, and there is a push to try and resolve these differences during the Dalai Lama's lifetime. The fear is that the death of the Dalai Lama may trigger more unrest among the Tibetans in exile. In April 25th this year, the Chinese government announced that it would resume talks with the Dalai's representatives after almost a year's break. The Dalai Lama welcomed the move, greeting the move as a good start. 9 days later, representatives of both parties met in Shenzhen and pledged to maintain an ongoing dialogue. President Hu Jintao, who was then on an historic visit to Japan, expressed hope that these meetings would achieve positive results. Another round of talks was held in Beijing in early July. In Tibet, outside the holiest temple of Tibetan Buddhism, the Jokhang Monastery, stands the Tang War Peace Pledge Monument. It was erected in 821, when the Tang Emperor Muzong made a pact with the two-war king, Raoul Pachan. The monument was inscribed in both Tibetan and Chinese characters, and tells the history of the marriages of the Tang princesses Wencheng and Jincheng with Tibetan kings.
And this concludes our series on Tibet.